Okay, and we're or COMP308, sorry, Emerging Technologies, and it's week 2, lesson 2, part 2. And we just finished talking about GitHub. We have a bit of a collaboration challenge for the class, right? I'm trying to make things work. So after you've created your repository, we did all this kind of stuff. We did the repository. We talked about connecting with Visual Studio last week, so I'm not going to do that right now. What I'd like you to do actually is, and we did our first commits and all this kind of stuff. So I think this is pretty much done. I want to kind of get on to the next piece. But what I want to do is let's find something that you can find on GitHub that I want you to fork, okay, which is a totally different thing. All right. So one of the things we're using in another class of mine is easel.js, right? Now you may not be using it here, but that's okay, right? So if I go to easel.js, follow me here. If I click on easel.js and it takes me on Google, it's going to take me to this this folder here, or this. I'm here at in the Create.js suite of libraries, right? And again, for those people who aren't going to use this, don't worry about it. This is just an exercise. We're not going to do anything with this today, except for download it. Now it says download, right? When I click download, though, it gives me an option to do a couple of things. I can go to GitHub, and a lot of times you might see these APIs that we're going to be using are up on GitHub, right? So what do I do with GitHub when it's up on GitHub? So if I click GitHub, right, and here I am, right, and I'm accessing my Create.js library. Well, guess what? It gives me kind of this intro screen onto which one I want. I want easel.js, so go along with me and pick easel.js, please. And on there, it says, look, I can fork it, right? I want you to go here and click fork, please. And tell me what happens. So right on the corner here, click fork. Huh? Where should you fork?
Because we do have other reports. Yeah, because you have only one repository. We have previously used it, so we have another report.
So put it somewhere. Yeah. Put it somewhere. Have you done this already? Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So fork easel.js for yourself, right? And what you want to do here, this is a big library, so it's not just like, a few files, a couple of files. This is a big library with lots of files. So this will give you a chance to see stuff like, how to look at a much bigger library of an example. If you notice here on easel.js, they've got 1,260 commits. So this is a bigger application, and it's a library of information. And if you notice, there's all kinds of different things they've got on here in terms of their different commits and different contributors committing, right? Like, look, added documentation for filtering specs, more improvements to graphics command docs, right? So every so often, you have contributors that are contributing to this big application, and they're adding things to different pieces of the application, right? That's the whole idea here. But what I want you to do is, so now that did you fork it? What does it do? What was that? It actually adds it into your own repository that you can, that you can actually modify it right here live. Just in class. Sorry, just gonna add this in. My wife is saying, "Are you blah blah blah?" Okay, so that's the first thing. Let's add something else. So this is cool. We've done this one. You can also fork things from your peeps, right? The people you're working with, right? So if someone's like if you're, instead of collaborating and you just want to copy over a file from their whole repo, you can do that as well. And you don't have to be a collaborator. We're not collaborators here with this big repo, right? What we're doing is we're copying it, putting it into our own, and then so I can download it, use it. All the commits are up here and everything, but the great thing about forking is you've got it locally, so you don't have to go search it.
So forking is the same as copying?
It's kind of a copy, yeah, but it actually syncs it up with the original. So when they make their changes, I believe you get your changes too, right? So let's try that. Let's see what happens. Let's try a smaller example. That's a big example. Let's try and do one that's smaller. So why don't you fork one of my folders, right? So I want you to go and grab, and by the way, you can grab any one of these, right? But let's try going to this other one called the Dragon, which is, by the way, what some of you guys are going to get for COMP397 probably next week, right? So it's called the Dragon, right? And it's been forked a couple times, and I want you to fork it again, right? There's a couple of things in here for the Dragon, right? It comes with some basic information, right? We'll take a look at that in a second, right? But this is the one I want you to look at. So it's me. It's called the Dragon with lowercase t, capital D. Fork this one. And besides, if you're doing COMP397, then this is what you're gonna have to do anyway. Did you guys get it? Did you fork the Dragon?
Yeah.
Fork the Dragon.
Exactly what I did.
Okay, let me update my thing here. I got 13 of them. 13 people have forked, right? Which is good. This is good. And now I'm gonna make a little change, because why not, right? I'm gonna add a README file to the Dragon. So here we go. This says template project for COMP397 assignment 1. Sure. And I'll create a README. It says commit the file, right? There it is. So here's the Dragon, right, with a little README. Do you guys see it? When you guys go refresh your site now, do you guys see it? Or is it completely separate? It does say that?
Yeah, it has a notification at the top that it's behind.
All right. So look, there's a little thing here that says review, create a pull request, right? There's issues. Now you're going to see something different than me, right? How do I refresh my branch? How do I do that? Right? Does it tell you how to do that? Does it give you a hint of what to do on the left hand?
For me, it says I can just click on add every
No. Here. On the
Refresh your repo. Refresh your fork.
So we all behind.
We're all behind by 1, right?
Yep.
And what to do? Well, how do you catch up? Right?
We request your pull request.
Is it a pull request?
Yeah.
Well, it says pull request 0, right?
So we need
The
to
best
create-
thing for you guys to do, and this is where we're going to get into some issues with this, because we're going to stop Git for now and we're going to move on, right? So what happens when you don't know how to do something, right, in Git? Now there's some really good kind of tutorials up here on how to fork a repo, how to become social, how to create a repo. All this stuff here is under the help. So if I go to fork a repo, as an example, it says fork the repository, make the fix, submit a pull request to the project owner, right? If the project owner likes your work, they might pull your fix into the original repository. Use someone else's project as a starting point for your own idea, right? And then here, you fork a repository, keep your fork synced. Here's the piece, right? You might fork a project in order to propose changes to the upstream or original repository. In this case, it's good practice to regularly sync your fork with the upstream repository. To do this, you'll need to use Git on the command line. You can practice setting the upstream repository using the same spoon knife repository you just forked. This is just an example. If you haven't yet, it tells you how to do that. You can create a local clone of your fork. It tells you how to do that too, right? And then you can configure Git to sync your fork with the original spoon fork repository and so on as you do that. But you should also be able to do it online, which is what there should be a way for you to to do a pull or to do a request to sync it up with online, physically online, with your GitHub, right? And if you don't know how to do it, as an example, I'm just going to show you how to do this. It's very, very simple. Go to Google, and this is what we're going to do a lot of times, guys. And you're going to say, you know, keep forked repo up to date. There it is. I'm typing it. Someone's doing it. Syncing a fork, user documentation. This is through, again, command line. What about online? On GitHub, right? Up on GitHub, right? So you clone it. This is all command line, right? It's just trying to find the right link for you guys. Without command line, right? Again, you're cloning, keeping up to date. We're not even cloning it. This is just up online. You're doing it, right? That's what you want to do. So anyway, let's see if we can do it together. Let's search together, right? We're doing a little search, like a documentation search, right? Let's see who can find it first.
I think if you have the extension installed on Eclipse,
Yeah, you can, but we don't want to do it locally. We want to do it remotely. We want to do it on the web, on GitHub. We've just done a fork on GitHub. You've got your repository, and now I want to keep it synced. How do I do it? I'm just going to do the same thing you guys are doing. This all shows Git cloning locally online. There's a guy who showed you how to do it on the video. Click on pull requests. Click on new pull request by default. GitHub will compare the original with your fork, and there shouldn't be anything to compare if you didn't make any changes. Click on switching the base. Now GitHub will compare your fork with the original, and you see all the latest changes. Click on the click to create a pull request for this comparison and assign a predictable name to pull requests. And then click on send pull requests. Scroll down and click merge pull request and finally confirm your merge. And if your fork didn't have any changes, you will be able to merge it automatically. There we go.
I remember doing that in,
What was that?
I remember doing that for another class, but I can't remember where it was.
So that's how you do it. So if I was going to do it, it's just the instructions are right here. It's very simple. So do a pull request. Click on pull requests. Your fork. And then go new pull request. Right? It's all done? Okay. Got to figure it out? So here. So on the, if I go to my repo here, the Dragon, let's just go down here to the, oh, there it is. People are active. They're actively using it, right? I've got only 4 commits. I've added my README file, right? And if you go to, because this is me, I don't have a, see I have a pull request. There is a pull request, right? See? That's good. That's what it's going to show like. So it's going to show up, right? So if I click onto it, it shows it, right? And it says this pull request can be automatically merged, right? If you have something new to contribute. Now there's nothing you're contributing that's new, right? Did you get the new, are you synced up with my repo?
yeah, but now it says one commit ahead from your.
So we haven't done it yet. You haven't done it yet.
It says
Right.
ahead of your repository. Can you just watch if you don't mind?
Let's see.
Oh, I got the README.
Oh, you got the README?
Yeah, you just have to merge it after you.
I got the
You need
README.
to-
You got to do a pull request and then you have to do a merge, right?
Did you?
So again, this is the situation. You do a pull request, a new pull request, right? And after you do that, it says click on switching the base, right? And then you send the pull request, and then you do a merge pull request. And finally, you confirm the merge. So once you merge down, then you're good to go.
But then it's showing these branches, one commit ahead of, I cannot pronounce
Yeah,
the
yeah,
last name.
It's okay. It's
Master.
Ciliopoulos.
Switch the base.
Switch the base. Switch the base. Switch the base.
Switch the base so it's yours compared to his.
Yes. Because right now it was you.
Right now you're comparing his to yours.
That's right.
I'm not
Switch the
comparing
base.
anymore, I'm just viewing. Come here.
She's so insistent. You better come,
Yeah,
right?
I guess.
I already have the review.
Oh yeah, you merged it.
But you see it says this branch is one commit ahead of.
Okay, so when you pull it, you create it. Create it.
So makes sense,
Oh, well, I guess.
right? So what we want to do is we want to keep things up to date. So if I have a repository, or if you're working with a colleague and you want to keep up to date with them, and you do a fork of their repository, right? As an example, if that's how you're going to work, because there's different ways to collaborate, right? Then you got to make sure you're keeping on track with the other person. The reason why it's great to keep up with Git is for two reasons. One, you can collaborate by adding a new pull request, so you kind of put together something new, and then they can incorporate it and merge it on with their own files, like a bigger repository as a developer. And the other way to do it is to do it like we're doing here, just keeping on track with what they're doing online, with no command line, nothing.
I got the same thing. I think what it is that it's saying when you updated it to include this file, it
Okay.
counts it as a separate command. And
So-
it thinks that you're
So if everyone's comfortable with that, all we're doing is I wanted to show you a couple ways to do different things. We're going to hit GitHub again. This is not the last time we're going to talk about GitHub, but I wanted you guys to have a little bit of experience about, hey, I did a poll, I did a fork, right? You can also add in new issues, right? And new issues allow you to say, hey, Tom, there's a problem with your file. It's not working, right? So new issues are almost like you create a new incident saying, hey, you know what? I downloaded your repo and I got a problem. It doesn't work, or I have an issue. And then it kind of notifies the owner, right? Or whoever created the person who created the repo in the first place that, hey, it's not working properly, right? Or there's an issue. I found a problem. We can fix it, and here's a suggestion, right? So there's a couple ways you can collaborate with other people, and these are some good tools that we're going to continue to explore as we move forward. Now I got to move on because I got to show you a couple of other things today, and I got to introduce you to something called Foundation. So this is this piece of Foundation that we're going to talk about, and I know I'm switching course, so to speak, but I got to do it because there's more than just GitHub for us, although it's fun to play. Right? We need to have some stuff to put up on GitHub, so we need to create it. Just from a time perspective, and I see how we've been going, I think what I'm going to do is, because we're going to meet together tomorrow as well, and I think tomorrow might be a good day just to cover Foundation for a couple hours, right? So I think what I'll do now is talk about assignment 1, right? And we'll talk about what's required for this new one. Okay, so here's assignment 1. Let's see if I can make it so that it fits into your screens again. It's called the Personal Portfolio website, and it's due the end of the month, January 30th, right? It's worth 15% though, so it's a little bit bigger than an average assignment. Most assignments are like 10%. This one's going to be a little bit more, right? And what it's going to be is, if you've never done web design before, it's going to give you an opportunity to kind of put things together. And we're going to use this portfolio site that we're going to build together, right, as our base. Where we do more projects in the future, as we roll forward in this course, Emerging Technologies, we're going to add things to this this project, right? We're going to expand it. We're going to change it, right? So this would be like the first site you've created, right? This also is a good opportunity for you to show off your work, right? So for example, if you've done other things, you're working on the game stuff, you've got other application stuff that you've written, and you want to show off your work. Again, we're talking about being social again as developers and putting our names out there and saying, hey, I know how to do a website. Here's my website, right? So this is the opportunity for us to do this. Now, it's due in a couple weeks. This is not a small assignment. This is an assignment that's going to require everything you got, right? So I would recommend you start today, right? This is not something you, and by the way, most of my assignments are like this, right? They need to be started like right away, right? I'm not saying it's super hard, but it is worth 15% of your final mark, right? And I'd like to try and get this all marked by week 4. So what does it say here? It says, using your accumulated knowledge of HTML5, CSS3, I put JavaScript in there as well. And I also said, create a responsive website. And we haven't learned how to do responsive stuff yet, but we're going to talk about that tomorrow, right? All through Foundation. So my expectation is that you create something at least with Foundation or other technologies we're going to talk about. CSS media queries would be the other way to do it, right? If you want to do it by hand. What I'm asking you not to do for your assignment, so this is a do not do. Do not download and install WordPress and create a portfolio site, or Drupal, or Joomla, or any other CMS, okay? I don't want you to do that, okay? However, if you wanted to use Bootstrap, I'm not covering it, but if you wanted to use Bootstrap, that's another good solution as opposed to Foundation, which I'm going to show you tomorrow. So any other responsive framework you can download and install, you're good to go, right? What I'm not asking you to do is please do not make it a CMS that you can install in 5 minutes, right? That's not the exercise here. The exercise is building a site from scratch with your own knowledge, right? Which we're going to work on together over the next 2 weeks, because there's going to be time for us to kind of work on it together here in class and talk about responsive design and how to put this thing together. So you're not going to be alone to do this. But I'm going to give you some tools on how to take care of this thing, but I want you to think about how would you put this thing together. So let's talk about this a little bit. So I'm asking for a site logo, a personal bio, a portfolio section, a couple things, right? So there's a bit of content. So you're not just getting marked on functionality, but you're also getting, so here's the way I break down the marks, right? So part of it is going to be UI, your GUI, right? How does it look? Part of it is going to be content, stuff you put into it. That's to me, that's like free marks, content, right? That's like you putting stuff into the site and making it your own, right? Functionality, there's 12 marks. So it's not a lot of functionality. It's like kind of equal with the UI, right? 5 marks for internal documentation, and here's the big one, 10 marks for external documentation, which we'll talk about, right? And 4 marks for version control. And what does that mean? GitHub, right? Remember I talked about GitHub being the thing you need to do all the time? This is the thing, this is how it's going to look. So let's go back up here. I kind of drew this very simple wireframe of what the site could look like. The very basic, most basic version of a site would look like this, right? I'd like you to try and outdo this, right? Try and do something of your own. It doesn't have to be this way. You can make it look like however you want, and we'll talk about this. These are the basics that I'm asking for. A company logo, an About Me page, a projects page, a services page with a nav bar, a welcome statement, a personal tagline, right? And some kind of arrow that says, hey, look at my work, right? With some kind of slider. By the way, the slider you can download and install. I don't need you to write your own slider, okay? So there's no, I'm not asking you to be experts in JavaScript, but you can use things like jQuery, which we're going to cover, and other technologies to make this slider work, okay? Some of this is going to be, I need to figure out how to do this. I'm going to go up online and research it and how to do it, learn it on your own, because there's some pieces that I can't cover, right? But the stuff that I'm talking about here isn't rocket science. You should be able to get it done within 2 weeks. There's also this keep connected section here on the right side. And what if, I've gotten questions before that says things like, hey Tom, I'm not a social person, right? I don't have Facebook, okay? I don't have Twitter. I don't do LinkedIn. I don't have any RSS feeds. You know what? I don't use GitHub. What? You don't use GitHub? Of course you use GitHub now, right? I don't use YouTube. You know, I don't use, just, you know, you can simulate it. Okay, if you're really nervous about creating a portfolio site and putting your own information up on here, that's fine. right? And I know some people are saying, well, from a privacy perspective, if I put the portfolio site together, people will see it and they'll be able to connect with me. Well, yeah, that's the reason why we're making it, so they can connect with you, right? This is your site that's going to be about you. It's about you selling you so that you can get work, so you can get paid. That's what I'm trying to do here for you guys, right? Yes, it's like I told you guys before, it's like a sheep in wolf's clothing, right? Because I'm saying create your portfolio set, but the real reason, the underlying motive that I have is for you guys to get paid, to get a job, right? So in order for you to do that, and if you've done this before, maybe you have another class that asked you to do it. Did you? Yes?
Yes.
So you might have something already. And you might say, hey, I got it already, right? Can I reuse the stuff that I got? Certainly. You can take whatever you have, and as long as it complies with what I'm asking for here, all the power. Free marks, right? If you don't have anything, though, and you need to create something, and I guarantee that it won't comply probably 100% with what I'm asking, because I'm asking for specific things, you need to make some changes. You need to revise what you have, and that's okay too, right? This is not a small little project, and it's on your own. I'm not asking you to collaborate with anyone else. This is for you, and it's got to be live, right, for you to get full marks, which means you get it hosted somewhere, right? On the school, the school has hosting services. They provide your own little web space, yeah? So you need to be able to host it live. I don't want to be able to go to GitHub to test out your site. Your site should be live so that I can go to your site, look at your site, and check it out, right? So there's a couple things. Some people will say, well, Tom, do you recommend that I get my own domain? Well, you know what? For $10 a month, or $10 a year, sorry, what am I saying? $10 a year, I think you can probably afford it, right? If you really wanted to, make your own custom domain with your name and so on. Hosting is can be as cheap as $10 a month too. So we're looking at for $120 a year, you can have your own site hosted somewhere, and so you can look professional, right? If you intend one day to become a web designer. But even if you don't, let's say tomorrow you just want to be a developer or a game designer or whatever, right? Some kind of web portal so we can find you online is a key tool to selling yourself, right? And this is what it's all about. So that's why I'm making this happen. That's why this portfolio site's important. And it's not 100% easy to do, but we're going to go over it over the next couple weeks. So from now until the end of the month, till January 30th when it's due, which is Friday, even though we meet on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, it'll be due on the Friday of the week that we meet, which will give you a chance to, hey, let me take a look at this thing. I'll review a little bit with you, give you some feedback, and any changes you got to make you can make by Friday, right? And again, it's due by Friday at midnight on the 30th. Okay, so kind of a wireframe. Some more details. So if you look at the mark structure, right, your home page, it says, should include the following components. 6 marks for UI, and I break down the marks per page, right? 6 marks for UI, 6 marks for content, equal amount, 6 marks for functionality. So a unique company logo, you're going to get 2 marks. 1 mark for GUI, so the UI itself, how it looks, right? And 1 mark for content. You're going to say, hey, Tom, I'm not a designer. How do I put together a logo? There's lots of stuff out there. What I don't want you to use, I don't want you to steal somebody else's work and call it your own. So I don't want you to go up online and say, that's a really cool picture. I want to use this for me. A logo could be as simple as putting your name in paint, right? In some stylistic way, adding a shadow, that's my logo, right? It doesn't have to be super special. It has to be something to do with you. Like if I was going to do a logo and I wanted to do something for Tom Sriopoulos, which is a really long name, maybe I'd make a logo with a couple of T's. Let's say if I was going to be really non-artistic. You can also do it 3D. If you're a 3D guy and you want to go up on Blender and do some kind of 3D logo and then you do a snapshot and add it into like make it your own, it's fine. You can be as creative or as uncreative as you want, but it has to be you and it has to be unique. And I'm going to ask you to do this, not just in this class, but every other class we meet, right? So if I meet you in another class, I'm going to ask you for a logo when you do some kind of assignment for me, right? Why? This is your signet ring. This is your stamp that tells me that it's you, that it's not somebody else. So it's very important that you get this done. And it's worth 2 marks. And I'll probably give you 2 marks every single time. So think about this. Over the course of the entire the length of our time together, you're going to get like all kinds of free marks for doing the logo, right? So please spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be professional. You don't have to get it done and pay somebody to do it. Just choose something that means something to you, maybe a couple of images that you kind of put together that makes it your own. And you can look at some examples of logos online that you might like, that you might have some pieces that you want to put together. And we'll talk about logo a little bit as we go forward as well. So navbar, a navbar, of course, is a navigation system, some kind of way of going from one page to another. I call it a navbar, but what if you wanted to make something different? And I'm going to just pull out my little tablet to illustrate what I'm talking about here. Hold on. This is where the drawing comes in. Okay, so here I am. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about here. So let's go to. I use something called Sketchbook Pro, right? That I kind of take care of. And let's see here. So again, you've got your. Sketchbook Pro allows me to do one of these things. I can actually draw, whatever I want here with my tablet, my pen, right? Now again, you might draw your design on a napkin. It doesn't matter. But the idea here is so I've got my page. So here's my page. And forgive me because I'm not, I have to kind of look, and I don't want to block your view. Here, we'll just do it like this. So I will block your view. And for this kind of idea here, what I want to do, and I apologize again because what I see and what you see are totally different. So I've got a page. So here's my page. And inside of my page, what I want to do is I want to put my logo. Maybe my logo is going to be on the top left corner of my page somewhere, right? And where my logo is, as an example, I want to start designing my navbar. But let's say my navbar, instead of it being the way it is, I'm just going to change my thicknesses of my pens here for a second. I'll choose something else. Let's say, for example, my navbar, instead of it being straight like this, which you would expect to be like this. Here's my navbar, right? As I'm drawing my, I don't want to make it that way because I want to be unique, and I want to make it like a circle, right? So my navbar is like, I have my my stuff out here as an example, right? And what I mean by that is maybe I have some text. I'm just going to type some text here, right? And my text is going to be here. That's going to be where my first link is going to be. My second link will be over here. My third link will be over here. So it's in a circle. It's not in a straight line like we normally have in a navbar, as an example. But that's fine, right? It doesn't mean just because I'm asking for a navbar that it's got to look like a navbar. Make it your own, right? What if you don't want to make your site square like this? What if you want to make your site all circles, right? And that's fine, right? You can do that too. So again, the design is important, right? And there's different tools that can help you do that. One of the tools that I want you to use, again, and you're going to talk about this, is creating a wireframe. And we're going to come back to this in a bit. For now, I'm just going to put it aside and go back to what I was talking about, right? So let's say, as an example, you've got your navbar. Okay, that's worth like 2 marks GUI and 2 marks functionality, right? So again, that's 4 marks for your navbar. And it's, by the way, if you notice, a navbar, there's another couple marks. Wait, a navbar, there's another couple marks. So I'm not really giving you 2 marks or 4 marks. I'm giving you like 10 for your navbar. So make your damn navbar work, okay? And there's another thing that you're going to get some extra free marks for, by the way, in this little piece of work that I've put together, right? Your footer, right, which includes your copyright statement. That damn copyright statement is going to give you 1, hold on a second, call it 2, there's 3, there's 4, and 5. 5 marks for your darn copyright statement. Which means if you miss a page, you lose a mark automatically because there's no copyright statement. You lose a couple marks for your navbar. That's like 3 marks gone if you forgot a page. That would be bad. Like, don't forget a page that I've asked you to create. There's a bunch of pages I've asked you, 4 or 5, I believe. Every one of them is important. Please don't say, well, I've got the first 2 pages that you asked me for, Tom, but I forgot to do, page 3, 4, and 5. Why would you do that? It's just a page, right? So a personal tagline in your mission statement that says something like, hey, websites happen here. Some kind of creative tagline that's your own, right? Your mission statement should kind of have 3 reasons for what you do. I do content creation, I do movies, clean movies, and I do you know, I do martial arts, right? And I want to show that on the website, you know, kind of thing. And I'm a web page ninja, right? I'm just making this up, right? But something that make you unique from everyone else. And we'll give you some examples of some stuff that's out there. A featured work slider that kind of goes by and shows some images of your work, right? Well, you're going to get those images from your portfolio, from your project page. You're going to have a project page that's going to have some examples of your projects. One of them might be, if you're in the other course with me, that web gaming course, right? As an example, maybe it'll show your games, a couple of your games. Maybe you're in another course, you're not doing web gaming, but you have some, and you're doing some programming somewhere else, and you got a couple of other projects that you've done for different other professors. Put them in there, right? I want 3 examples of work that you're happy with, you're proud of, that you like, of your own. And if you don't have 3 examples, put in a stub. Put in something that you'd like to do, right? So here's a couple of projects, and here's a future project that I'm thinking about doing. That's okay. And make that slider that we talked about, this one up here, make it rotate through this work that I'm talking about. This featured work should rotate and show images of your work, snapshots, like screenshots, this kind of thing, right? Now, when I'm talking here, when you think about this, right, you're looking at it going, holy crap, this is big. Yeah, it's big. And if you don't say, holy crap, it's big, guys, it's big, right? This isn't something that you can do overnight. This isn't something you can do in a week. This is going to take a couple weeks of your work, right? Here and there to do. Some people are quick. Some people can knock this off in like an hour. Good luck, right? Some people can knock this off in, in 4 weeks. You don't have 4 weeks. You get 2 weeks, right? Okay. A keep connected panel, and it could be just like a little square somewhere on your website, like I showed you up here that basically says, follow me on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, or whatever social networking sites you're actively using, and I want at least a couple, 2 or 3, something that you're following. Maybe you're on Facebook, as an example. Don't share the ones that you don't want people to see. So if you don't want people to find you on Facebook, don't share yourself on Facebook. But if you want people to find you on LinkedIn, and by the way, that's probably a normal one that you want people to look for you, right? Then share yourself on LinkedIn, share yourself on GitHub, share yourself on YouTube if you've done videos, tutorials, what have you. But at least a couple of them that you want to share. And maybe an email address would be good too, or some kind of contact information to find you somehow.
Wouldn't the contact me page have that?
It would, but you want a little panel that they can go and right on the front page. Instead of them drilling down to find the contacts, it's right there, right? Remember, this site is the number one reason for you putting the site up is for them to contact you. So your contact information shouldn't be something they have to drill down 2 levels to get. It should be right there somewhere. Maybe that it's floating, or maybe that it's somewhere on the side where they want to keep connected with you, and they can do that with a single click, right? The About Me page, again, your nav bar, a current image of you. Please, no avatars. So this means like you got to take a picture of yourself. And you might say, well, I don't really take good pictures. Well, too bad. This is just for this assignment, right? Take a picture of yourself, an image. I don't want it to be skewed, right? It's not going to look like really, really small. And it can't be like stretched. It's got to be properly proportioned. That looks like you, right? Some people say, well, can I use black and white? Do I have to use color? That's up to you. Black and white or color is your issue. It's one mark content. It's a content mark if you miss it, right? And a bio section that includes your latest CV. So it could be a link, a PDF link to your resume. That's what a CV is, right? Or some highlights that you want to put on your website about what you can do, right? So here I've learned at Georgian. I worked co-op at this particular place. Some really big highlights. Nothing too detailed. Like I like water polo on Sundays. I don't need to know that, right? Like things that you'd want to share with people who are going to hire you. Right? If you don't want them to know, don't put it up there. A projects page, and this is what I talked about. Here's your nav bar again, the free marks, right? 3 images that represent your current projects or assignments, at least 3. You can put more if you want. And when your user clicks on these images, they can either link to their location on GitHub, or a separate subpage of your site that includes details of the project and any previous work. Okay? A footer. Your services page that says, these are the services that I offer. I do web design, I do development, I do video, I do copywriting, I do branding. What do you do? What can you do for me if you're a developer, designer, right? What are you good at? Sell yourself to me. If I was going to hire you tomorrow, if I had my own company and I was going to hire you, what kind of things can you do for me as a developer, designer? right? You're going to need to do this kind of stuff, guys. Whether you do it in an interview or you do it here online, you want people to find you. 100% if they can find you, most likely you're going to get a job. If they can't find you and you're unknown, it's going to be more challenging, right? A contact me page that includes the same stuff that we put in our keeping connected section, and maybe anything else you want to add in there. Maybe like a little form that says, "Hey, send me some information or a request or whatever." Your site also includes, here's something that's not on your site. So now we talked about pages on your site, but I also want it to be well structured. So your site includes a structured HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all that kind of stuff that we're going to talk about in Visual Studio. I want you to set those things up, right? So your folder structure is important. Your JavaScript files are separate. Your images and multimedia files are separate. I'm going to give you free marks for doing that. We just did that the other day. Separate your files, right? You're going to get free marks for doing all that stuff. If I look at your site and it looks good, free marks, right? Some combination of code, JavaScript, jQuery, a framework, or scaffold that enables your site to be responsive, 4 marks, right? Because I'm asking for it to be responsive. We're going to talk about responsive design again next day, tomorrow, right? What that is. It means it's going to, your viewport is going to realign your content to different screen sizes, right? And then internal documentation that says things like a comment header for your CSS and your HTML and your JavaScript files, telling it, who are you? This is your stuff. You're going to kind of stamp your stuff. Any kind of inline comments that you need for your design or functionality or anything that is not immediately apparent to you. And we're going to talk about these things. And then an external document, and it could be a file like a Word file. Please don't use some open document that's not compatible with me. It's got to be Word or PDF. That's what I'm asking for, right? That includes your company logo again. Whoa, another mark for your company logo. So that's a couple marks at the beginning for your website, plus another mark because it's going to be on your external document. Your external document, guys, is worth 13 marks out of 75. It's a big chunk. Please do not, and when I say 75, it's like 75 little slices of the 15% that this whole assignment's worth of your final, right? It's almost like a midterm exam that I'm giving you on day 2. That's what this thing is. It's 15% of your mark, right? A table of contents, a brief description of your site, a navbar section detailing how your navbar looks and so on, a colors section that tells me what colors you're using for your site with swatches. We'll talk about that tomorrow. A typography section that includes a screen capture of your home page, which is different than a wireframe, and a wireframe of your site, which we're going to do tomorrow. I'm going to ask you to hand in your wireframes tomorrow, so be ready to start drawing tomorrow. Okay? We can do it with paint. You can use fireworks. You can use Photoshop. You can use whatever you want. But tomorrow you're going to hand in your wireframe. That's going to be your first little mini assignment. If you're not here tomorrow, it's bad because you're going to get the other 1%. Remember I gave you 1% for joining me on GitHub? You're going to get another 1% tomorrow for doing your wireframe for your site. So really, GitHub 1%, your wireframe 1% for tomorrow, and this 15% is 17% of your final mark, potentially, you can get, right? A wireframe section, a branding section, right? And then, of course, share your files on GitHub, which is 1, creating the repository, 2, storing your files, that's 2 marks, and then another couple marks for your commits, which I want to see some live commits in there, right? And then, of course, what you want to do is there's some bonus marks potential, like if I want to have a working form for your contact me page, if you're really aggressive or ambitious and you want to have some kind of PHP backend or Node.js or something like that you know how to do already, and you want to get some bonus marks, I'll give that to you. Include a sitemap for your site, some easy stuff to do, where your sitemap tells a visitor, hey, what a site looks like. And maybe it's an XML sitemap so that it's good, so Google can find you from SEO perspective, search engine optimization perspective, right? Maybe breadcrumbs to your site, and we'll talk about what those breadcrumbs are. Little links that tell you where you are in your site and how to go back and navigate your site a little bit more, right? A terms of use link. So that means another little page that you kind of create a terms of use, right? Maybe a privacy policy. These are 1 marks, 2 marks for extra pages on your site that I'm going to give you free marks for, right? And some icons in your navbar because, hey, in the future we want to go mobile, right? So the navbars, the icons should replace your navbar text, right? Those kind of things. And then, of course, your submissions should include your external document, a zip archive of your website's project files, or, and I prefer this, a link to GitHub. Okay? I want you to think about this, and I'm going to go over the questions you may have tomorrow. Okay? But for now, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.